Fossil ended in an era no other Pokemon set could. Not base set, not jungle, not even a modern release. Because Fossil did something no other set in history has. It finished the Pokédex. And once all 150 Pokemon existed on cards, Wizards of the Coast couldn't just print more Pokemon anymore. That forced a design shift that changed the TCG forever. This is the Collector Card Index, and today, we're excavating the set that quietly killed just print Pokemon era and forced the game to say something about each card. October 10th, 1999. When Fossil hit store shelves, collectors thought they were getting another expansion. More Pokemon, more holos, more cards to chase. But what they actually got was closure. Aerodactyl, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres. The fossil Pokemon and the legendary birds. The final missing pieces of the original 150 Pokemon. And for the first time in Pokemon history, a kid could open their binder and realize something strange. There was no empty spaces left. Base set started the Pokédex. Jungle pushed it forward, but Fossil finished it. And that created a problem Wizards of the Coast had never faced before. If all 150 Pokemon already existed on cards, what do they print next? The answer changed the game's identity. Before Fossil, Pokemon was discovery. After Fossil, Pokemon became designs. Themes became necessary, ownership, villains, regional variants that we'll see in upcoming sets. That's why Fossil feels like a line in the sand. It's not just a third original set, it's the set that forced Pokemon to evolve or die. So how did Wizards of the Coast handle that pressure? How do you design a set when you've already printed every Pokemon that exists? They got weird. Because Fossil didn't just complete the Pokédex. It introduced the strangest mechanic the game had ever seen. A trainer card that pretended to be a Pokemon. This is the mysterious Fossil card. And understanding why it exists explains everything about Fossil was trying to do. It's classified as a trainer, but the rules say you play it on your own bench like a basic Pokemon. It has 10 HP, no attacks, no weaknesses, no resistances, and only one purpose. It can evolve into Kabuto, Ammonite, or Aerodactyl. This was Wizards' attempt to translate the video game mechanics. You find a fossil, you revive it, into a piece of cardboard. A design experiment that broke the game's own rules. But in practice, players quickly realized the mysterious fossil was awkward. It could be knocked out before you ever evolved it. And unlike real basic Pokemon, it couldn't attack while you set up. The result, fossil Pokemon rarely showed up in competitive play. Aerodactyl's Pokemon power, preventing opponents from evolving, had potential. But the setup was too clunky compared to Haymaker decks running Hitmonchan and Electabuzz. But here's the thing. Competitive viability wasn't the point. The mysterious fossil wasn't designed to win tournaments. It was designed to make completion feel like the video game. You had to work for these Pokemon. You had to evolve them. You had to earn them. And that's exactly what Fossil needed to do. Because if the set was just, here are 15 more Pokemon, it would have felt like filler. But by making Fossil Pokemon mechanically different, Wizards gave Fossil an identity beyond completion. It wasn't just the set that finished the Pokédex. It was the set that made you work for the ending. If you wanted proof that Fossil understood its assignment, look at the three legendary birds. Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres. In Red and Blue, these weren't just rare Pokemon, they were legends. The trio you hunted through the power plant, Seafoam Islands, and Victory Road. Once per game, no second chances, and let's be fair, most of us use Master Balls on them. When Wizards announced all 3 would be holographic rares and fossils, collectors knew exactly what they meant. These weren't just chase cards, they were trophies. And unlike base set's Charizard, which was powerful and iconic, the legendary birds had a different kind of appeal. Competitively, they were fine. Zapdos saw some play in Rain Dance variants. Articuno and Moltres were too slow. But that didn't matter, because the legendary birds weren't about winning games. They were about finishing something. Base set gave you Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, the starters that defined your journey. Jungle gave you Scyther, Pinsir, Wigglytuff, the Pokemon that filled the gaps. But Fossil gave you closure. The legendary birds were the end game. The final hunt. The last 3 cards that made your binder feel complete. And that's why they mattered more than their competitive stats ever could. But there was one more legendary that was needed to finish the Pokédex. Or I should say, pseudo-legendary. Fossil had one more card that stood apart from everything else in the set. Dragonite. Dragonite isn't a fossil Pokemon. It isn't a legendary Pokemon. But in Generation 1, Dragonite occupied a space nothing else did. It was the only dragon Pokemon, besides its pre-evolutions. There was no dragon type in the trading card game yet. No defined weaknesses, no resistances, nothing else compared to it. That made Dragonite feel truly powerful. Not because of numbers, because of isolation. Dragonite wasn't just rare, it was singular, and collectors felt that immediately. In the video games, Dragonite wasn't something you stumbled into. You didn't just catch it. You trained it from a Dragtini that you had to spend pretty much millions of dollars to get from a game corner. Then you had to evolve it into a Dragonair, which was pretty late game. And only after that did you earn the Dragonite. That journey mattered. It made Dragonite feel earned long before anyone cared about its stats or balance. Fossil understood that. That's why Dragonite belongs here. Not to complete the Pokédex, but to cement its status as a pseudo-legendary. The legendary birds completed the checklist. Dragonite cemented its status. It wasn't the final Pokemon you needed, it was the final Pokemon you wanted. Dragonite felt powerful because it stood alone, because nothing else in the game looked like it, because it sat above the type system before the type system even caught up. But Fossil didn't stop there. Because if Dragonite was the Pokemon you worked for, Fossil had one Pokemon that worked its way into our hearts over time. Fossil had one Pokemon that didn't feel powerful because of its stats. It felt powerful because of mystery. Gengar. Gengar wasn't just rare. It was unsettling. In Generation 1, ghost Pokemon were terrifying. They didn't behave like other Pokemon. They weren't explained the same way. They lived in haunted towers, couldn't be hit, and you needed a special scope to even battle them. And in the trading card game, Gengar was the only ghost Pokemon that really mattered. Ghastly and Haunted existed, but Gengar was the goal, the end game of the ghosts. It was the card everyone knew about, the one people talked about, the one kids flipped to first when you opened a Fossil binder. Not because it was the rarest, not because it was the strongest, but because it felt powerful in a way you couldn't measure. Gengar was the Pokemon you didn't trade lightly. The Pokemon you hesitated before putting in a binder slot. The Pokemon people asked about first. What do you want for your Gengar? And that question carried weight. Because ghost Pokemon had a reputation. They ignored rules, they broke expectations, they felt like they existed outside the normal order of things. And that carried over into the trading card game. Fossil leaned into that. The artwork was darker. The expression was quite unsettling. The name alone carried presence. You didn't need to understand how Gengar worked. You just needed to know it was different. And in a set built around completion, Gengar was the wild card. The legendary birds finished the list. Dragonite cemented status. Gengar created obsessions. That's why Fossil Gengar became the card people remember. Not because of playability, not because of numbers, but because it felt like the one Pokemon you weren't supposed to have easily. And that feeling followed Gengar for decades. Fossil taught collectors something new. Pokemon didn't just need power, they needed identity. And 4 months later, Pokemon changed forever. So what happened after Fossil? 4 months later, Team Rocket released, and everything changed. For the first time, Pokemon cards weren't just Pokemon anymore. They were dark Pokemon, evil versions, corrupted versions, Pokemon with a story attached to them, Pokemon with trainers, with gym heroes. Before Fossil, sets could survive on recognition alone. Here's a Pikachu. Here's a Charizard. Here are legendary birds. After Fossil, that wasn't enough. Gym heroes introduced ownership. Lieutenant Surge's Electabuzz, Misty Psyduck, Sabrina's Alakazam. It wasn't just about the Pokemon anymore, but trainers and the characters who were in the game. And today, every set needs a theme. Terra Pokemon, Radiant Pokemon, illustration rares. None of that happens if Fossil doesn't force the question. What do you print when there's nothing left to discover? So what is Fossil's real legacy? It's not power. It's not mechanics. It's not even price. It's closure. For the first time in Pokemon history, a kid could open their binder and realize something strange. There was no empty spaces left. The Pokédex was finally complete. That moment you started the game that said you need to collect every Pokemon was done. That's why Fossil matters. 25 years later, not because it's the strongest set, not because it's the flashiest, but because it let an entire generation say one sentence. No Pokemon set has ever been allowed to say again. I have caught them all. Base set began the story, Jungle made it bigger, Fossil finished it. And that made the TCG evolve forever. My name's Elias from BulbaCards. If you like this video, subscribe. Our next video will be 151. So if you love Scarlet and Violet 151, be sure to subscribe, stick around, and we'll be doing that video up next. But my name's Elias from BulbaCards. I will see you guys here next time.